Shahr Ramadan is the month that the Quran has descended, and it is a time for us to reflect more on the Holy Quran. Reciting it is very good, reading it is very good. But if you ask yourselves, how does Quran change me in my life? It is usually with reflection and tadabbur of the Holy Quran. That is how a person changes. I myself remember when I was growing up in the West or in the same city, that many times when I was young in high school, I always felt that the Quran was talking to me. And I would open it up and just have that conversation and get that speech from Allah and that guidance. And many times the same verse would keep coming over and over. A time that, for example, I was in a public school and I was trying to shift and become, get more Muslim friends. Verses kept coming that, do not take, for example, Christians or Yahud or Jews as your awliya, as your guardians, or as your protectors. So then, alhamdulillah, what happened is that I was blessed with having good brothers in Islam, and this helped as being someone who was raised. But this helps when you open up the Quran sometimes and you just think and you see that Allah, you want to speak to me, you want to have a message for me. What do you want to tell me? And when you want to know your Lord and Allah, you ask yourself, how can I know Him? One of the ways is that I can know Him by His speech, by the Holy Quran. Individuals that are very quiet, they just sit in a corner, which is good, very quiet. We like those people a lot. You don't learn much about them because they don't express their opinions, they don't say anything. But you see people who speak more, you know more about them. So we understand individuals or beings by their speech. If you want to understand who Allah is, you understand Him by His speech, by the Quran. That's why you say Sadaqallah. This is the speech of Allah and it's truthful. Surah al-Nasr is the surah that we are covering today, the 110th surah of the Holy Quran. This surah, besides Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, has 3 verses. It is very short. Nasr is victory, the surah of victory. And I'm sure that many of you know this surah. But there's a lot in these 3 short verses. The Quran teaches us, and that is one of the beauties of the Holy Quran, is that in the most simple way, in the way that everyone can understand, in the shortest way, the Quran has the most in-depth meanings. And this is unparalleled with any other book. Usually any other book, that holy book you want to read, you need to have a reference, another book for reference. What is this location? Who is this person? I don't get what it's talking about. But Quran speaks to everyone, even after 1400 years. If you open up the Quran, it speaks to you. And speaks to you directly. And solves the problems that you have when it comes to guidance. That is why some say it's tibyan li kulli shay. It explains everything, means some say not that it has physics in it, all the principles of physics. It might have some physics in it, but not all the principles of physics. It doesn't have all the formulas of chemistry. It doesn't have the entire elements in chemistry, for example, or mathematics. It's not tibyan kulli shay in this manner that all ulum and all sciences are inside the Quran, even though maybe the root of all of those can be in the Quran. But the Mufassir says that tibyan li kulli shay, an explanation to everything, means in terms of guidance, it has everything that you need. When a person writes a book, for example, in chemistry, and says, this is all you need, he means in chemistry, this is all you need. Quran, when it comes to guidance, it's a book of guidance. We understand that it has everything that you need. It has everything that you need, or at least the fundamentals, and then the explanations and the rest comes from Rasulullah. We'll start with the first ayah of this after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And that is, what is Nasr here? What does it mean by Nasr? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِذَا جَاءَ. إِذَا ja'a here, when you put these together, even though ja'a is past tense, but when you say idha ja'a, this is talking about the future, when the victory of Allah will come. Idha ja'a nasrullah wal fath, for example. Or you have in other translations this way, for example, that Quran mentions when the help of Allah and the victory comes. So what victory and help? Nasr means help. Nasr means victory. What victory? What happened that Quran is talking about? Wal fath, in that victory, that help. Some say that maybe when you look at these verses, this could be referring to, because Nasrullah here can refer maybe to all the victories of Rasulullah, all the help that Allah has given to Rasulullah. And you look at all the battles, for example, that he had from Badr and later on. This could be, for example, one possibility is that the help of Allah has always been with Rasulullah. But here in Al-Mizan it mentions that this maybe is not the case, because the verse afterwards says, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسِ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. And when you see people entering into the religion of Allah in multitudes. So it says this victory is connected, in conquest, is connected to when there are lots of Muslims, there are multitude. So this, for example, would not be in the case of Mecca, for example. This would not be in the case of all the victories and all the actions that Rasulullah had. This is something specific, Al-Mizan says. So what is this? What victory are we talking about? Some say maybe it's the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, in the 6th year of Hijrah, in which was success, because having a treaty, for example, that causes fighting to end with the polytheists and mushrikeen for a time period, even though they negated it, is a victory. But again, because of وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا, and you see the people entering religion in multitude, you see that the best example, and what we have in narration, is that this victory that we see is the fath, and the victory in the conquest of Mecca, that in the 8th year, almost about 2 years, that Rasulullah is before he passes away. In about 20 years later, after the commencement of his mission, around 20 years, Rasulullah, who was tortured or in a way harmed by his own people, was denied by his own people, and had to leave to another city, which was Medina, and had to fight. And they came in Badr and Uhud and Khandaq and other wars, and they kept coming from Mecca to fight against Rasulullah. Now, after 20 years, our Prophet is victorious, and he conquers Mecca. He gets Mecca and removes idol worship generally in the Arabian area. There's no more idol worship now, for example, or generally speaking. Now Islam is the deen of Arabia. So it's a big victory for the Muslims. And that is why it is said in narration, a person who recites إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, this surah has participated in the conquest of Mecca. The hadith also says this too. And you see that how did Rasulullah conquer Mecca? Was it through bloodshed? Was it many people died? You see, he had an army about 10,000. And they enter Mecca. And they bring Abbas, his uncle, speaks with Abu Sufyan, and basically tells them about this army. And they look at the army of Rasulullah. Abu Sufyan is amazed now. Look what kind of army you have. Look what kind of people your nephew has. Look how many they have. And then he mentions that this is not like a political matter. This is religion. He is a prophet. That's why 10,000 people are coming. Rasulullah forgives, Abu Sufyan. He becomes Muslim. And even though he was responsible for a lot of the animosity towards the Prophet, he makes the house of Rasulullah house of Abu Sufyan a place of safety. That whoever from the polytheists wants to be safe, go to the house of Abu Sufyan. I will not have anything to do with it. Then Abu Sufyan goes to the people and says, look, outside there's a big army. You better become Muslim or else you're going to be harmed. This is what he thought. And they became Muslim. Interesting, some of the Mufassirin say, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسِ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. You see people entering religion of Allah in multitudes. It says they entered. It doesn't say they had high iman. It says they entered. They became Muslim. They became zahiran Muslim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. They don't want to be, in a way, to be harmed, for example, by the Muslims. So a lot of them became Muslim, but they called them the tulaqa, those who were freed. They were free to do whatever they want. Because today is the day of marhama. For example, it's not malhama. It's the day of marhama. It's the day of mercy. It's not the day of revenge. Even though, brothers and sisters, when you think about this, generally speaking, if it was us and somebody killed, for example, our uncle, killed our, a lot of our followers, attacked us for so many years, disrespected us, now it is my turn to have power and I could do whatever they want, we maybe would not have forgiven that easily. And they come to Rasulullah and they ask, forgiveness, and he cries. Rasulullah cries and gives the verse that Prophet Yusuf forgave his own brothers. He viewed them as his own brothers and he forgave them and he cried for them. Because he's rahmatun lil alameen. He's the mercy of the worlds. And those people who had war with him and persecuted him, wherever they were, they tried to find the Muslimin and they tried to persecute them generally. He forgave them. And this is one lesson for us, is that there will be times when we have power. There will be times when you will have that power. You will have something that people need. And that is the time you have to give. Because Rasulullah in his own scabbard of the sword has, to give, a'ti man haramak. Whoever has prohibited from you, give to him. Give to him. And this is from the scabbard of the sword of Rasulullah. To if somebody mistreats you, if somebody, while you need their help, doesn't help you, or at worst, they become your enemy. But now it's your turn that you give to them. You are generous to them. And this is the akhlaq, and this is the behavior of Rasulullah, that people fell in love with him. And you understand that this deen that today is, mashallah, through so many continents we have Muslims, and the name of Rasulullah is the most popular name in multiple countries when children are born and named. It is because of the love and affinity we have towards Rasulullah that he forgave. It was the day of forgiveness, marhama. So we continue with this verse. So after this, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. You see the people came folds into religion. Now this is another akhlaqi and ethical lesson for us. Now you're victorious. Rasulullah is victorious, has Mecca. Very interesting thing, he never then lived in Mecca, even though that's his home city. That is where you always ask yourself, that's the Kaaba. That's where the best place to live is Kaaba now. But he went back. He didn't stay there. He went back to Medina. He went back to those loyal people that gave him protection and helped him in this victory. Here we ask is, usually when Quran is a book of balance. It's always trying to teach us something. And when you look at the reflections from this surah, and you see this part, فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِكَ. Rasulullah, now that in the ka is mufrad to you, Rasulullah, now that you are victorious, now that all of Arabia is in your hands, you're the most powerful person now, then exalt Allah, exalt Him and praise your Lord. Praise Allah. Lesson being that praise is due to Allah because victory is from Him. Do not be arrogant and think that you did this, your strategy worked, for example, and whatever you did in terms of, for example, military might and economic power, that you were victorious. That Rasulullah, this victory belongs to Allah. Allah helped you. This is a big lesson for us, especially those who lived in a Western, a materialist society, that there will be time periods where you will have success, inshallah. Or you had success and you have more. And you have to come to the conclusion that Allah helped you. Allah gave you this. Who gave you that intelligence to think, to be successful? Who gave you health? If you were, God forbid, unhealthy all the time, always in the hospital, could you have been successful when it came to your work, for example, or to your family? It would be very difficult. Now we'll explain what does success mean here. But we see that all praise is due to Allah, just how we had in Surah Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to Him because we feel and believe that Allah has power and dominion over this world. That everything we have is a favor of His, is His blessings. And whatever evil exists is from us. The example is like the example of earth. When the sun is shining upon earth, half of earth, there is sunlight, for example. The other half is darkness. Does earth, when there is light and is bright and is shining, can earth say, this is my own light? No. Earth says, this is not my own light. That's the sun. That's the sun's light. But then when it is dark, can earth say, this is from my own darkness? This is me? So yes, this is your own darkness. So in the same example, that everything good comes from Allah, the same way that the sun shines upon earth and earth becomes radiant, it is from the sun. It is from, we say, from Allah. And when there is darkness in the earth, that comes from itself. And that is how we are. If we are not blessed by the rahmah and mercy of Allah, then we don't have any virtue. We'll be gone. So lesson 1 is to attribute and praise God when you are successful, because many people, when they become successful, they become arrogant. And this is in the world as well as in spirituality. When they have a successful business, a great career, it's very hard to even talk to them anymore. You know, they think that they have done something very important. Praise Allah, don't be arrogant, don't make that mistake. Or when it comes to religion, and now you have tawfiq and fasting Shahr Ramadan, and reciting Quran, and for example, praying, and now you feel like, mashallah, like nothing can stop me now. I can never do any sin now. I'm on a roll, for example. That is when arrogance comes and makes you crash down. Because the best person is that person that sees himself as doing nothing. When they look at the life of Sheikh Murtada and Ansari, one of our great scholars, they say that he was reciting at the end of his life, you know, a little bit about Sheikh Murtada Ansari. They say that he was Khatam al-Fuqaha, he was the last and seal of the jurists, that his zuhd, nobody could be as ascetic and disdain from the world as much as him, and his power that he had, that nobody had that power to be in the supreme marja. Sheikh Murtada Ansari is reciting this dua at the end of his life. The last moment, there's actually a specific prayer when someone is dying, again, not in this masjid, in the other, for example, centers, when somebody is dying, for example, as a joke. Here, this is, you know, dua that you recite that, oh Allah, who accepts the qaleel and forgives the kathir. Oh Allah, that you accept the qaleel, you accept the little few, and you accept, but you forgive the a lot. And that is how we imagine Allah. This is how we see Allah as being. That He accepts a little bit, something small, Allah buys and accepts it. But if we do a lot of sin and we turn to Him, He forgives. Then he recited this, and he says that I don't have the qaleel, I don't have that qaleel, I don't even have that little bit, I don't have that little bit, I don't have the supreme marja, most knowledgeable and uncomparable with the other jurists, sees to him as when he looks upon himself, he sees he has nothing. But yet, for example, someone like me, we do a little bit of ibadah, a little bit of worship, think, oh, I'm for sure I'm going to heaven. God, if I don't go to heaven, then who is going to go to heaven? As if I'm guaranteed. Why do you think that we don't work hard for our deen? Because we think we're going to heaven. We already think we're already there. But why do we think that when there's no guarantee? How do we know? How do we know what position you have? And this is one of the blessings that Allah has given us, is that there is a mystery. We're not supposed to know. So therefore you work harder and harder. So the second lesson that I want to say is that regardless of material or spiritual success, always view yourself as not having even done something that is qaleel, that I'm nothing, for example. This is worship. But if you worship God and you think you are something, then that's satanic worship. One brother was asking me, 6,000 years shaitan worshipped Allah. Do we have any signs that he was about to, for example, be faulty at the end? Did we have any hadith, any signs or Quran that shaitan, that's these 6,000 years he's worshipping God, that he was going to, for example, fail? Because we have some signs from, those who were with Imam Ali and then later on turned on him. We had some signs, for example. But what about shaitan? I said the fact that shaitan worships God for 6,000 years and doesn't learn the lesson that you have to submit to God means that worship was not real worship. Did you understand what I said? 6,000 years of the other world. Shaitan worshiped, and then he's tested with a command. After 6,000 years, he should be the first one to do sujood to Adam. Because sujood, worship, should take you to humility and submission. It should have an effect. Don't we say salat takes us, for example, away from munkar? It separates away from evilness. If salat is going to have an effect, and that is how some of our ulama, like Ayatollah Bahjat mentioned, that when you do a good salat, salatul fajr, dhuhr, asr, it will protect you until the next salat. He says, do you want to know if your salat, for example, Maghrib, Isha is accepted? No, you'll be protected to fajr, or fajr to dhuhr, asr, dhuhr, asr to Maghrib, Isha. It protects you. If the worship of shaitan didn't protect him after 6,000 years and make him more humble, then no, that wasn't real worship. So God forbid, sometimes we have to be careful of worship that is satanic in nature. And that is worship that makes me the arrogant one. Worship that I don't gain anything but separation from Allah. Because the essence of worship and ibadat is to be humble towards Allah, to submit. The second thing word we have here is وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Now that you have conquered Arabia, first, do what? Do tasbih of Allah, glorify God. 2, seek for forgiveness. Seek for forgiveness. إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Allah will forgive. Allah accepts repentance. When you look at the factors of success, and we ask ourselves, I want to be a successful person. I want to be good at what I either work or family or marriage or, for example, worship. I want to be a good person. I have to know that being one who does not sin, one who seeks forgiveness all the time, this will help me in being victorious. How? Quran says, Quran very beautifully says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever fears Allah, whoever has taqwa, meaning doesn't sin, He will make for him a way out. He will give, because people, when they have a mission, when they have something to do, a goal, there's going to be a time period where there's no way out. Now they're stuck. Those who go to work, they understand this every day. There's some problem, something, or they are in the family or with their friends or work. There's some big problem. How can I help myself with this? It says, if you have taqwa, Allah will have for you a way out. Allah will give you success. Allah will give you victory. So know that if you want to be victorious in whatever field that is, if you're a student right now, you want to be a good student, have taqwa. Seek forgiveness from Allah. Do not sin. If you are muttaqi, Allah will give you a way out. Trust in Him. Submit to Him, and you'll notice that your entire life will change, and He will protect you, and He will help you. Whenever you're at a dead end, you'll see, oh, that's the way to do. That's what I have to do. When you see the example of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and when he had that exodus, and the Bani Israel left Egypt, some say 700,000 Bani Israel left to flee from Pharaoh. Finally, they ran into the Red Sea. There, they said, the Quran mentions that they're coming to us. The army of Pharaoh with all its might is coming. We're at a dead end. But he mentions that my Lord will guide me. My Lord will guide me. And finally, he tells Prophet Musa, strike with your staff the sea and it opens. They even complained that this bottom of the sea is muddy or whatever. You can't really walk on that. So then he made another prayer and then he dried that too for them as well. To make them be able to walk, in clear, very almost like pavement, for example, nice and smooth, and they walked through. Now Pharaoh came, it crashed down on him. So therefore, if you are for Allah, Allah will help you, will give you victory. But now another question that we have here is, when we talk about victory, and especially these last 15, 16 months that we're talking about, or when you study history of Shiism, and you see what happened later on to Imam Ali alayhi salam, Sayyidah Fatima, what happened in Ashura, for example. Does victory necessarily mean to conquer? Does victory mean that I will be successful in that goal that I want to have? Or are there other ways of being victorious? Would you agree that Karbala is one of the most victorious events of humanity? Even though Zahiran at that time, you're talking about the shahadat and martyrdom of Imam Hussein, his family members. At that time, it is nothing but blood and dhulm and oppression. But today, now you look at Karbala, and you see 20 million people coming for Arba'een. You see that maybe I was speaking, and I was thinking to myself, is there an individual? I'm not saying who is higher in rank or whatever. I just want you to count the amount of resources spent for him every year and how many people visit his grave and how many people do things for him. I don't know if there's any individual in this world today that people spend more resources than Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, than Imam Hussein alayhi salam. If you see how many people visit his shrine, 20 million, how many people give to him, for him in his path, I don't know, it's in the top or maybe he is not matched. So would you say Karbala of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is victorious? Yes, you say it's victorious. But sometimes victory comes in different ways. Sometimes it's not like Fathul Makkah, for example. Sometimes it's like the victory of Imam Hussein, where his holy blood was victorious against the Umayyads, against Dalalat, because his opponent was misguidance. And through his holy blood, he sacrificed and he made everyone know that this is the correct path. He saved Islam. This is how the other Imams saved Islam. But Imam Hussein saved Islam for everybody. So victory does not always come in a way that you think that, oh, okay, Imam Ali has to be victorious by now conquering the entire, for example, Middle East, or then later on everything. No, sometimes victory comes in different ways. The Prophet's goal was not to conquer as much land as possible. That was not his goal. His goal was to conquer the hearts of the people, to guide the people. So even though we look at victory in this amount, yes, he has, it's great. He has Mecca, he has Arabia. But the true victory, is if people are guided. That true victory is if everyone followed Ali ibn Abi Talib and went to the next Imam, then to Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So remember, victory is not always how we look at it. You have to look at it at long term. Sometimes we make big sacrifices today, but years later you see the fruits of that sacrifice. Today you see, for example, strife, you see, for example, bloodshed. But then 50 years, 100 years, you say, wow, look what happened, for example. Oh, that's the hikmah. Because you can't understand the hikmah of something that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, 5, 10, 20, 100 years from now. The third thing I want to say about factors of victory and success is this word Nasr, for example, or Fath, or different words, fawz, success, or Sa'ada, are used throughout the Holy Quran. That we should be of those who are successful. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, when struck in this night, in the nights of Ramadan, that is when Ibn Muljam strike Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he says that I am successful by the Lord of the Kaaba. I have been successful. You see that success is not necessarily, we said, that it comes with success that we, think that we're going to become victorious and conquer the world. Sometimes that success means doing what is right, living by morals. Maybe you won't be the richest person, maybe you won't be the most powerful. That's not success. Success means that I have reached sa'ada, I have reached happiness. And that is what Imam Ali mentioned, that I am successful because I have done everything right in the best possible way. I am leaving this world as one who is successful. So brothers and sisters, we are told from our scholars, from Quran, from Hadith, that for us we have to do what is right. And what happens, the result, that is not up to us. That is not what is success, gauges success or not. When you do what is right, when you perform and you do what is right, then you'll be successful. Not necessarily that you have to see the results with your own eyes. There might be individuals who they are good businessmen, for example, very honest. And success for a businessman means not to do haram, not to treat someone in the wrong way. That is a successful business person. One who has never done haram in his life, not the one who has the most. Sometimes we think success means you have the most. No, you do what is right, and in reality, you have the highest position. So we are instructed to do what is right. That success will come by Allah's hands. So hopefully we can be of the fa'izun, and those who are successful. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح. When the victory of Allah has come and the conquest. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسِ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. When you see the people entering into the religion of Allah in multitudes. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ. Then exalt Him with the praise of your Lord. وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ. And ask for forgiveness. إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. He is accepting of repentance. May Allah make us, inshallah, of those who have success, inshallah, in this world and the hereafter. Ya Allah, cure our sick. Have mercy upon our deceased. Answer our prayers. Accept our acts of worship in Shahr Ramadan. Give victory to all of those who are fighting against oppression. Protect the madhlumeen and oppressed. And allow us to see the Imam of the age with our own eyes and expedite his return with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.